Hey everybody, welcome back to the Making of series where I, director, actor, filmmaker, comedian Riley James Thorpe, discuss the making of my inspirations, the productions, pre-production, post-production, all that, of my various short films that I do. And today's episode is going to be about my analog horror short film, Stop Crying and Sleep. I'm wearing green, by the way. Green, it's very fitting because of the Joker movie palette I have behind me. Makes it go along with the analog horror of this entire project. This whole thing, from the inspiration for the video to the final product, was 3 days. And I was working 8-hour days all 3 of those days. So essentially I would work, come home, work in this short, go to bed, wake up, go to work, come home, work in the short, and do that 3 times over. And then voila, the entire short film was made in essentially a couple of hours. For the record, what is in my opinion my best short film, Silence of the Karens, was done the exact same way. So maybe there's something deeper to think about there. But now the whole inspiration for this short film was I was working at a movie studio, and I still work there, at least of the recording of this video. And around that same time, this was of course during the 2023, the SAG-AFTRA and the WGA strikes, where all union productions in Hollywood have been shut down. And the primary reason why they were striking had a lot to do with the encroaching threat that AI presents to their jobs, as well as a lot of other jobs. Artificial intelligence has proven to be a very threatening and toxic presence. Now there's a lot more to it than that I'm not going to be going into in this video. Just know that I do and always have supported the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA in their strikes. I think the big studios trying to use AI more is just taking people's jobs away from them, and it's also just not good. Putting it bluntly, yeah, an AI can write a script for you, but there's no soul to it. Like, a robot can write down musical notes on a piece of paper that would theoretically be appealing to the human ear, but they can't write a genuinely moving symphony. So it's threatening a lot of people's jobs, all for not good quality stuff. A lot of big studios, they're just using this to save money and save time, but they're doing it by putting in artificial intelligence. And when you do that, you take out the human aspect of it. Now look, AI can absolutely be an incredible tool or an assistant. I'd be lying if I didn't say that I use ChatGPT to write descriptions for my YouTube videos. But I draw the line at it making the videos for me, writing the scripts, editing the clips. It can absolutely be a great assistant, but if you use it for the purpose of replacing the artist, you're taking the soul out of the art, which is the whole point of the art. And I'm not gonna lie, I've used AI art before. I mean, there was a trend earlier this year, your AI avatars, and I did it. I'm not gonna lie to it, but beyond it being just a trend I did that one time, it didn't mean anything to me beyond that. I didn't get anything out of it except for just making one video for a trend, because that's what I do, I hop on trends. There was a whole movement pretty much after that. Artists who were campaigning against AI art. As a filmmaker and as an artist myself, I support them as well. Film is art, and all art, it's not just entertainment. Okay, it's our expression, it's our thoughts, it's our feelings, it's our love, it's our anger, it's everything. When you take the soul out of our expression, our thoughts, our opinions, everything, you're essentially, we as individuals, and not only that, but we as a society are becoming corrupted. If all the movies and shows we're watching are just written by AI, then where's the emotion supposed to come from? By the creators, and thereby the interpretations and the feelings and the thoughts and the value that are received by the audience. Where is that? It's nowhere. All because a big producer wouldn't pay a writer, wouldn't take a little time, was too impatient, didn't want to spend the money. And I'm so glad we as a society, we all acknowledge that not only is that not okay, but we have to actively take steps to prevent that. That's at least something that's good for me. So in that regard, I don't like AI. I have used it, I have witnessed it, but I don't see it as anything other than a threat. Now, I was working at a movie studio while all that was happening. Obviously not as an actor or a writer, but I was working in a movie studio at a time when these big strikes were happening. Now, side note, around that same time, I also became really fascinated with this idea of analog horror. Stuff like the Mandela catalogs, a new movie that just came out, Skinamarink. A lot of people argue that it's very played out. I myself became very fascinated with the prospect of making an analog horror. A lot of aspiring filmmakers, they make analog horror where they string some weird images and sounds and stuff like that, put a VHS filter over it, have some weird noises playing in the background. Nothing against experimental. I know a lot of people, a lot of filmmakers who that is their thing. Experimental, no story, none of that, just weird visuals, and that's all they are. And good on them for that. But for my taste, I prefer something that not only has the good and the weird visuals, but I also like having a story and character to go along with it. Like just having weird psychedelic imagery. It's not enough for me personally. I'm not saying that has no that stuff has no artistic value whatsoever. I'm not saying that. So the point is, I don't really try to make stuff that's like that experimental in terms of I like to take chances. I like things that don't spoon feed it to their audiences, but I also like something that like has somewhat of a story and a character. That's essentially what I'm trying to say, and that's kind of reflects the way in my work as well. A lot of it is more character conflict driven and not quite as abstract. But that being said, I also like the idea of a filmmaker who's not a fan of like one particular genre that makes a film in that IP. I love the idea of someone like me who doesn't like experimental making an experimental horror like that. So I wanted to make something more along the lines of an analog horror, and all that the while was happening while I was working at this movie studio. I was driving through that movie studio one time, but above me was a plane flying over and had a banner flying behind it. And the banner said, "Pay your writers AI holes." That was the inspiration for this short film. I wanted to make an expressionist analog horror that's a metaphor for my opinions on the current state of AI's encroachment on the film industry and art as a whole. So I wrote this outline of an idea where it's like a children's show. You're watching like one of those little cheesy PBS shows, like Dora the Explorer looks over and, "Hey kids, where do I find the map?" The character is this AI VHS analog monster. Old grandma type character. This lovely, sweet little grandma. But then, as someone who used to work in a nursing home, trust me, old people can be cute. They can also be freaking terrifying. You're watching the children's show, and as it's going on, there are little inklings. Like, there's a little static image. There's also some dips in the audio of like, what the hell's going on? This grandma is trying to help these children fall asleep. What that's a metaphor for is like, this grandma, it's helping the children fall asleep. AI is allowing us to be lazy. But when we're lazy, that's when the AI corrupts us as individuals and as a society. So this idea of the AI is like tempting us. It's a lot cheaper, it saves on time. What's enticing big studios to essentially use AI, it's tempting the audience to fall asleep, to be lazy, to give up. Let the AI take over. It's all gonna be okay. So yes, I did unfortunately use AI generated art for this film. Now, I did not pay for this app, nor did I even like using AI art. In order to tell something that's a big middle finger to AI art, I felt that that was the best way of achieving that story. I portrayed them like it is. Cheap, ugly, soulless. Just look at these images. I just said type in old lady and look at the horrible, just bad quality images that came up. We're taking genuinely talented artists and replacing them with a robot that creates this shit? I did use AI generated art, but it was all for the purpose of showing how shitty it is. As you're watching, the kid's like, let's count sheep. There's 1 sheep, 2 sheep, it glitches, creating this uneasy effect of just repeating. The images themselves are progressively getting more and more unsettling, both with the sheep and with the grandma. But if you look really closely, if you really slow it down, in between when she says sheep for the last time consecutively, if you look really closely, there's 1 single frame of something a little not okay. If you're looking closely for it, you're gonna see a little hidden detail. And I guess that's pretty on-the-nose symbolism. I mean, I'm comparing AI to the devil. And the first half of the short is essentially just you, the viewer, watching this show. And then halfway through, it's revealed the whole entire screen glitches, and that's a chance to kind of get a look back. There's someone watching this and being affected by it. You're not just watching something creepy and weird. You're watching someone get corrupted by this weird, creepy AI VHS thing. You're watching what the character in the short is watching. It's more of a meta take on that. And then at the end, the person finally gives up. They fall asleep. The grandma, the AI monster, leaking its way, filthy little hands into the person's brain, into their soul, and that person gave up. The artist allows the AI to win. And then later on, when that same person returns home to their creative space, to find it all dark and black, and they find a mirrored version of themselves, but it's been corrupted and evil by this AI monster. Essentially, that's the whole what happens and the meaning behind it. Now, another reason why I became really obsessed with the idea of making an analog horror is because with every short film I do, whatever I did from the last one, let's go take that to the next step. For the last short film I worked on, which of course was The Customer's Always Right, if you have seen the making of video for that short film, I'm going to link it right above here, you'll know know that purposefully went out of my way to add effects to make the visuals and the audio look and feel like it was filmed on film and on vinyl. Taking that to the next level and adding, not making it look like an old film, but instead making it sound like VHS. That was something that was really cool to me. I really gravitated towards on the last short, and I became very fascinated with in making this one. So yeah, that's essentially it. When we as a society, as individuals, allow this AI to replace us, which by the way is a very real possibility for us now, and we become evil ourselves, because we then at that point become soulless, unthinking, unfeeling, unexpressive robots as well. That's pretty much all I have to say about the making of Stop Crying and Sleep, my analog horror short film. Adding meaning to something that shouldn't have meaning because that's what makes it scary and suspenseful is kind of betraying the whole point of the short. But anyway, you watched it and I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for more making of videos. I have a couple more coming out as well. Be sure to subscribe and check out for my new latest videos as well. What's your favorite analog horror down in the comments, besides mine, of course. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.